Fishing with Joe Bucher.
Welcome back, folks. Yes, how about today's Angler Meets Fishing with Joe Bucher? You guys asked for it, we're delivering.
Yep, about
pumped,
time.
guys. I am pumped. It's so cool to be on the other side of the deal here, you know,
Right.
and being, all these years I've been in doing broadcast
Yeah,
TV,
yep.
just doing TV.
Right, your show, yeah.
And to hook up with you guys and connect, you know, for all of us to connect, it's awesome. It's just awesome.
No.
And thanks for the invite.
No, thanks for having us in your rig. This is going to be
It's
great.
awesome. It's fun. I'm looking forward to
A
it.
day getting guided by Mr. Joe Bucher himself. How does it get any better? I don't know.
No doubt, that is pretty crazy. I know you were talking about on the drive up here about reading an article.
Yeah, it was the first time I threw a shallow rater, 8-inch shallow rater. It was an article by you teaching how to go through cabbage weedless, having it float to the top. Did that the next day on my trip. I got like a 34-incher, so that was cool.
That's
you know?
my job. You know,
Yep.
I get more out of that than anything else,
Right.
as you
Oh,
know
heck
by
yeah.
now. Is showing somebody something, and then they connect, and then they go,
Wow,
And they tell you
that
about
works.
yeah, they show you a picture. You know, and it's funny because my wife always goes, "Don't you get tired of people walking up to you at shows and just with their?"
No.
I said, no.
That's the fun part of what
Yes, the feedback.
Absolutely.
You know, we put our heart and soul into this. All three of us do, and you know, we got multiple generations here.
Oh,
we
yeah.
put our heart and soul into what we do with this, and we all of us have a
fact.
passion for this.
Yep,
and
absolutely.
and one of the things is, we know that if we teach these people how to catch them, they're apt to stay in the sport and enjoy it more,
And make it
watch
grow.
more of your episodes, right? And it all works.
Absolutely.
But you caught a fish on the shallow rater, twitching it in the weeds.
Yep.
We're gonna do that today.
Yeah, okay, right on. Sounds good. We're going to do the same kind of format we did last time. We'll do some fishing, some interviewing, some stories. It's going to be a good time.
A little bit of that.
Yep.
And yeah, it's pretty juicy weather, but we keep saying that and we keep sucking it up lately, but no.
We'll see if
that's gonna
Joe
change.
can,
No,
Joe
we're
can
gonna
help
change it
us.
today. There's just too much. We got the full moon. We're on the backside of the full moon, right?
Yes.
We've got weather fronts coming through here.
Yep.
We're past that kind of that in the turnover thing. We're kind of got lake stabilization here, and I've got these guys in the boat. How can I
don't know
lose?
about
We got the horseshoe, so we'll take
And the
that.
horseshoe on top of it.
We got 54-degree water. Let's go bang some baits here.
Is there a little weed in here, or what's up?
Yeah, I'll explain it all to you here. That bay is coming up. We're gonna have a little rim of weeds, and then you're gonna have It's funny. This bay has like a funny little plateau that sticks out. So you have a bar in the bay.
Bar in the bay.
Bar
I
in
like
the
it.
bay. Yeah, it's kind of cool. There's always a fish on the spot.
Always. He says always. I like always.
Yeah.
I'm going
Whether
for
we
that.
catch it, you know, there's always a fish on the spot.
All right, that sounds good. We'll get this rolling here. Of course, yes, I am starting the morning with the Flap 9. Why not? Robbie, what do you got rolling?
Can't tell you.
Can't tell you. Okay, I like that answer. We got secret bait going, folks. Joe, what are you going to start
I'm
with?
going to start with with an old faithful shallow rater here. Just a beat up old Cracker Jack tiger. Actually, this is the original Cracker Jack tiger. And I'm going to start with that because like the last October when I came out here, that's what I caught fish on. So give it a shot again.
All right, and the first cast is off. Still a thing.
It's still a thing. You know, you look at the little flap tail
Right.
years ago. And
Heading and
there was a big
snod
blow
low.
right there,
And
fellas. There it is. See it?
yep, yeah, there's a hole.
That's him.
There is a hole in the water to the left of my bait about
that's
4 feet. Joe said there was a mid 40 here the other day.
Yep.
What was it do? Did it? We were nowhere near it.
I know. I know.
That fish just came up to say, "Good morning, Joe.
Well, I think she just said, "I'm still here."
We got to catch that fish today."
Yeah, we will. We will.
Wow.
It's interesting.
It just swirled.
in
Yeah.
in this 15-yard area here, she's been in here for like a month.
Get her, Robbie. Well, at least we know a muskie is actually alive where we're casting. That's a start. There we go, fish.
There we go.
Oh, gone. It was very small.
Small?
It actually was probably a pike. It was all over the place. Yeah, I'm gonna.
Pike.
If it was muskie, it was very tiny. It was life. If it was a pike, it would have had all 6 hooks in it. It might have been a muskie. It kind of, I saw a flash,
Yeah.
one flash. Definitely was freaking out like a muskie would. So we're gonna get a little look inside Joe Bucher's tackle box here. What do we got?
Well, you know,
rolling here.
well, this is kind of my crankbait box, depth raider, shallow raider kind of thing, Lee. You see, this thing's full of like there's baits in here that aren't even, never even been out on the market. That's kind of an original shallow raider before shallow raider. We went to the flat-sided bait. Good fish catcher too. I just can't fish with it, of course, on TV because my buddies who run the company wouldn't be happy if I started catching fish on that. No, but you know, this is shallow raiders, and this I got kind of a mix in here of depth raiders. Even got a glide raider sitting there ready to go, and yeah, this is a crankbait box.
Anybody ever wanted to see inside Joe Bucher's box? We just saw inside his private tackle locker.
Small but fish.
It's a muskie. It is a muskie, I think.
It's a St. Clair monster.
It is
No net needed, but it is a muskie. So we actually didn't get skunked.
Well, we haven't got him yet. Come on.
I'm not going to do anything to that fish right now.
Come here, bud.
Good?
Come here, you little whippersnapper. He's
Got him?
even been caught.
Well, you know what's interesting is that's the first time.
Look at that. He's been caught. Look at.
You know what? That's
Poor-
the first time somebody else ever handled my fish, folks. Probably in. That's the first time probably in 40 years. Was
There
that
we
the guy?
go.
Was that the guide in you that did that?
There we
Or
go.
what was that?
We have to have a muskie on camera together.
So how does two lunker chasers like us ends up with a
Oh.
with a little lunge?
Joe's got us on him right now, folks.
Wait!
It smells right.
Smell it. Let's put that up.
Oh.
We'll get that all over our hands here and let that little guy go. Hey,
Look at that.
we
That poor
scored,
guy.
though.
He's
We
been
scored.
caught before,
You
but
know what, buddy?
he'll be fine.
I think you hooked him about the same size as that about an hour ago.
You know what? Actually, that's
Yes,
about what it
yes,
was. I
yes.
agree. All right, buddy. We appreciate it. Where's your great-great-grandma,
He's
please?
got an old beat up jaw.
There he goes.
Well, he
All
took
right.
off like a bolt of lightning.
Muskie in the boat. All
Muskie
right.
in the boat.
Wow.
I've never had anybody handle my fish before. That was pretty wild.
Sorry. Let's have it. You know how it is.
You know, wasn't that we're talking about right before we got back on camera here about there were those days when we kept them and we ate them.
Tasty muskies.
Well, you know that we didn't know any better, and you know it's interesting. You know, my guide trips go back to when I first started guiding,
Which was what year?
73.
73.
Yeah. So
I was 2.
well, I the first month of guiding. Okay, this is right after they stopped shooting them. So prior to this, folks, in the late 60s, you could still shoot the muskies. So, in other words, when a guy would hook a fish, get close to the boat, instead of reaching over and grabbing them like Lee did right there, he'd just reach over and
Pop it.
pop it.
Bust a cap
Yep.
in them.
Yep. So,
All right.
so fast forward, I'm in my first month of guiding, and I'm guiding this Rich Banker out of Forest Lodge on High Lake. And this guy was in his 80s and fished with all the famous old guides before me. You know,
Yeah.
the guys that, with the rowboats and no sonars, and you know they could rifle sight all this stuff, and they knew they were cool guys. But that generation, you know, again, they shot muskie as soon as you hooked it, right? So I'm taking this, I'm guiding this old banker, and about 3 hours into the trip, he hooks a muskie. And I get the net and everything, and the fish comes wide. He goes, ah! You know, throw the landing net away, the fish swims away. He brings the fish back to the boat, and I'm getting ready to net. He goes, ah!
Didn't want you to net it.
Nope, and then so the fish fights out, he takes off, and does a couple thrashes and stuff, and I'm worried he's going to lose it, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so I'm saying, get that fish back over. He goes, he just kept going, that's all he'd say.
What?
Yeah. And so, you know, this went on for 4 or 5 trips by the boat, and finally, you know, that fish is,
Oh, it's done.
yeah. I says, can I net it now, Si? He says, now you can net it. His name was Si Stein, by the way.
Sigh.
Si Stein. And I got the fish, and I said, Si, what's the deal? He says, he's been fishing muskies for almost 40 years. It's the first one I ever got to fight. I said, what? He says,
He just wanted to fight it.
he just wanted to fight it.
He'd caught him, but
Yes. And he said, I says, what do you mean? How do you caught a lot of muskies with all
Yeah.
these guys? Oh, yeah. He says, but as soon as they come by the boat, pow, they'd shoot him. They'd be dead right on there. Those were the days.
shoot him up, folks.
That's
Shoot
right.
him up.
Those were the days. It was a different era.
I'm kind of glad we're past that phase.
Yeah. Yeah. Can you imagine today?
Wow.
Can you imagine today? Yeah. In fact, back in those days, Lee, when you heard a gunshot,
You knew someone probably had a
someone
muskie.
cracked a muskie.
Wow.
That was like, oh, somebody got one.
Yeah. Now you hear a notification, and maybe somebody caught a muskie.
You hear a text.
It's a little
message.
different now. Alrighty. Okay, well, we got that little whippersnapper a few minutes ago, and wind's picking up a little bit. It's feeling good. I don't know. I know we're on good spots. That's not even a thought. So,
You know,
Just keep beating
the
it.
only thing I can think of too is this wind has been hard out of the south. It still is.
yep,
First overcast day, but it's still warm.
yep.
And we got that front coming, and that wind's going to go out of the west and out of the north. And are these fish waiting for that big wind switch and that cold front to come in? It's the only thing I can figure so far, because that small muskie was on a big fish spot.
Yeah.
And that's
like, yep.
always, that's not a good sign. But however, maybe that's the start of things. That's the optimistic way of looking at it.
Hey, I'll go with that. So Joe, we're about 6 hours in. What do you typically do at a time like this when
When it's struggling.
we're on the struggle bus? We brought it to the 715 once again.
Well, it's just like you've got so much experience as a guide too. You know that we know one thing: if you stop fishing,
You're not going to get
you're not
them.
going to get them. So
The one
know.
thing we have found a bunch of bait this morning. The first water we fished, that's where we're going back to.
and that's where we actually saw a big boil on a
Yes.
fish. So we have positive ID, and that's a fish that I've actually seen before. So
Right.
that, it's kind of funny that our first spot gave us the best chance, but I kind of planned it that way. And I just thought we'd score. Being with you, I just thought it was almost an automatic. But,
no,
no.
you need to watch a little more of our show. Or something. I'm just kidding.
No,
buddy.
I think that if the folks get anything from this too is that, hey, we're human and we struggle, and a lot of times when we catch these fish, it's by attrition. We just fish
gotta beat it
hard,
up.
keep doing everything right, and that may win the day. That may win the day. Keep doing everything right. We got one fish today. It was where we thought there would be a fish.
True. Yep.
And I think that when we finish up, we could go in there. We know there's fish in there, and
Yeah.
we could go in there and score. And the old thing, go from 0 to hero in one
Like
cast.
that.
Just like that. That's really what it is. You got to keep swinging. Just keep swinging.
Well, the bait fish thing, that's really like the biggest thought I've got right
Yes.
now is the food
Yes.
connection. We haven't really seen much bait anywhere else, so
But that spot has bait.
yeah.
Let's go.
A lot
get
of it.
Let's
do
go
it.
back and see what happens.
Well, folks, it is 3:40. We're taking a little break.
The muskies are not cooperating,
Right.
so to heck with them. Let's just chit chat for a couple minutes here.
This is why
Very
we're-
common, isn't it?
Right,
Very common
right.
that the muskies aren't cooperating.
Never seen it before. Pretty common,
Wow.
especially for us up in this water. But we got this evening still, and we know
Yep.
where Big One's located. We know where the bait is. So we're just taking this time to chit chat a little bit, ask Joe some questions,
For
and
sure. I'll add here too that we have not seen a single person casting today.
it's been nice.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah, and
Love
yet
it.
we're on we're on the Eagle 3 Lakes chain. As you can see, we're on the busiest body of
Yeah.
water.
Up
you know,
here.
But timing is everything, and we're just out here at a certain time of the midweek. You get out here in midweek this time of the year, and
Not so
of course,
bad.
after they watch your show, then they're probably going to be
There's probably gonna be less people out here after
Well, we'll
this
see
one.
what we catch. Yeah, there'll be less people after this.
Oh, you know how musky fishing is.
Yeah.
You go from 0 to. We could finish up here, go just put the trolling motor down, and boom, we get a fish on in the
Right.
next 5 minutes. You
Right.
just don't know.
You never know.
No.
So,
Well, let's
first
see
one,
here.
yeah.
Where do we start? Okay, let's just start with how in the heck did you get started in this crazy sport?
Very much like you did. One of the things that really gave me, I guess, a kickstart. I was very lucky, first of all, to grow up when I did. I think I grew up in one of the greatest times to be a young angler.
Sure.
I got to see.
A lot of changes happened.
I got to see the entire growth of the angling industry, from trolling motors and sonar units and the beginning of Fishing Facts and the End Fisherman and Bassmaster and I saw the beginning of tournaments. I saw the beginning of structure fishing. I've met
Right.
Buck Perry and all these. I grew up doing all this stuff. So being a youngster, my grandfather and my dad had a resort in southern Wisconsin, and so I was on a lake. And after I got done with chores,
You're out
Going
there.
out
you're
on the
going to
lake.
throw rocks in the
Yeah.
water. You're going to throw a lure in the
Yeah,
water.
yeah,
So
absolutely.
I did enough throwing rocks in the water, and then eventually I wanted to catch some of those
Yeah.
fish out there. And so, I grew up in southern Wisconsin and began my career as a bass fisherman, as everybody does,
Right.
as a youth, enjoying fishing.
Oh, yeah.
And then that's kind of how it started, and I became adept at catching bass. And actually, most people don't know this, especially your audience probably, that I first got well known as a bass angler.
Okay,
That's funny.
gotcha.
Yeah, and so that's kind of a surprise to some people. I first got well known as a bass angler. In fact, I just talked with somebody that did an interview with me at the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel about that, because he remembers his his predecessor writing an article. He found the old article that this guy Jay Reed did on as a bass.
Bass guy.
Oh,
yeah.
sure.
Yeah, and then going bass fishing and walleye fishing on musky waters, and all of a sudden having something come up and eat your biggest bass off the line was like,
That kind of got your
Can
attention.
I fish for that thing?
whoa! So that's kind of how the musky bug kind of got started. And don't forget, fellas,
Yeah, which would have been about, say when, roughly.
late '60s.
Okay,
Late
there you go.
60s.
Yeah, and
1960s,
Yeah.
kids.
Yeah, and then at in those days, I mean, folks, these people knew nothing about muskies.
Oh,
Nothing.
it was not that the orange was not peeled yet.
The
No,
orange is
Yeah.
the
not
fish
pure,
of 10,000 cats.
Right.
The
Untapped. Yeah.
untapped and you walked into a sports shop. There was a small little section of musky lures that
Right.
there was probably half a dozen baits.
Right, hardly
One
any
musky
industry or
rod was a
anything.
pool cue.
Mepps Muskie Killer.
Yeah, Suick.
What just
A
put this
loon.
next?
It was a
It's a
loon.
loon?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I thought we were being surrounded by muskies. There was a
See how easily we're distracted by
Yeah,
something
yeah.
moving in the water?
Yeah, exactly.
I haven't seen much of that today.
Fisherman's eyes. Yeah, but that's so you think about it. So I get this bass fishing knowledge, and I'm just getting into using sonar units and trolling motors and all this kind of stuff, which came later.
Right.
But when I started musky fishing, I did it the way it was done originally. Throw a bucktail, throw a Suick or whatever. And
Yep.
those are good baits. And just cast a shoreline, and 10,000
happens. Right.
10,000 casts later, I didn't have a muskie.
Right.
But then when I started adapting bass tactics to it,
Sure.
bingo. Things-
Structure, wind, all the above.
And connecting the dots that muskies are eating these fish, so it's really
Right.
they're all connected through bait fish and predator and prey relationships, and that's kind of how it all got started.
Right.
I know that was a long-winded answer, but that's kind of how it got started.
Yeah, that's pretty much how it got started for
Most
me.
people,
other
right?
than living on a
Right.
or working on a lake or whatever. But yeah, bass fishing became muskie fishing.
You know, at a wire leader, I always said, you know, bass fishermen that graduate to muskies,
Right.
it's easy for them because they understand the multiple tactics. You know, you
Right.
look at your lures,
Yeah.
and you got all these different lures that are tools for different things.
Right.
And okay, bass fisherman's tackle box is pretty much the same. Where you
Right.
got, you know, a walleye guy or a panfish guy has a more limited selection of
Yeah,
stuff most
yep.
of the time. But a bass guy, he's going to fish a crankbait and a bucktail and a jerkbait and top water and all this stuff, and you just put a wire leader on it,
You're
and
good,
then
right.
add a
Good.
figure eight to it,
Right.
and you can
Set,
fish
yeah,
muskies. And
yeah.
I think that's why bass guys graduate to muskies so easily, and that's how I did.
Right. Gotcha.
Of course, the figure eight thing in the beginning,
What was that?
you know,
thing?
was like, well,
Yeah.
these fish keep following. These fish keep following.
Yeah,
It's like,
how did that even, when did you first hear of a figure eight, or what, I mean, how does that even,
well, you know,
come to that?
it wasn't that I invented it. You know, there were people that talked about it just a little bit, and you know, and in the early days of muskie fishing, don't forget, everybody sat down in a boat.
sure.
Yeah.
So
right,
with
yeah.
short rods, so you're like doing this, you're not going to get a very good figure. So you caught one
Right.
in a blue moon,
Yeah.
one, you know, to a season. But they followed and followed and followed. But then we started standing up in these bigger boats, and
Yeah.
then using a little longer rods, we started to
Became
connect
easier.
more.
Yeah.
And then, you know, when I started writing, at 19 years old, I started writing fishing articles.
Yep.
And that was for who, or
Fishing
what kind
Facts
of-
magazine.
Fishing Facts, I used to get it.
Yep, Fishing Facts magazine and Hook and Shell and some of the other publications that, and every once in a while I'd sneak a muskie article in there because you couldn't find muskie.
Right.
By
Oh,
the
yeah.
way, you could not find muskie articles.
No content.
No, there's
No
no
YouTube.
No, no. There's
TV,
no
yep.
YouTube. There's no TV shows. There's no
Right.
sports shows with muskie guys. None of this existed. Couldn't go to the sports shop and buy lures.
Yeah.
You know.
Lucky to find a guide that actually targeted muskies. I'm
Yes.
Sure. That
And,
was,
and most often those guides that targeted muskies were walleye guys that
Sure.
made a living. And that when I first started guiding, I made a living guiding for walleyes, and then I talked my
Yeah.
customers into a couple hours
Right.
of
Right.
muskie
Right.
fishing.
Right.
Yeah.
At prime time.
Yeah, and then you know, a lot of times it wasn't even prime time, Rob. It was just one of those things. We got a limit of walleyes in the
Right.
live well. You want to go home or you want to go catch
Go,
a muskie
go
for a
try
couple
for
hours?
something. Yeah.
And then you know, even the figure eight thing is just teaching these people. Once I started to realize, hey, I can catch a bigger percentage of these fish, and I started to write about it.
yeah.
You know, I started to write about it, and then other guys started to write about it, and we started to have more success with it, and then I think it snowballed from there. But
Gotcha.
that's, you know, I was so wrapping it all up though. I was so lucky to grow up when I did because I saw the beginning.
Yeah.
Right.
I was part of
That's
the beginning. You
insane.
think about it, when I started Muskie Hunter magazine, there's people today that don't even know I started Muskie
Yeah.
Hunter magazine.
Joe started Muskie Hunter magazine, by the way.
Yeah, back in the day.
What
Back-
year?
You got me on the spot there, but I'm going to say it was 1986, 87.
All right. There we
You
go.
know, and there was no. I started the magazine because
Nothing out there.
there was
no
nothing out there.
content.
A
There was
couple
no
articles
content.
a year, right?
Right,
Yeah.
and I struggled to write article and get them accepted by Fishing Facts and these other magazines. They wouldn't accept them.
Nobody did it.
Yeah, and there was,
There's
you know,
no one,
well,
yeah.
for every one muskie article we publish, we'll get a few hundred, hundred
Right.
people reading it. If you wrote a bass article for us or a walleye article,
Right.
everybody's going to read
Yeah.
it. And that's kind of what I was up against. So I thought, let's create our own magazine and
Yeah.
then connect all these dots with these guys all over the country,
Right.
all over North America. And we start fishing, talking about muskies and growing together.
Right. Right.
And that's, that was part
Pretty
of that.
crazy, yeah.
And so I was so lucky to grow up when I did.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, so you kind of figure out the muskie program a little bit. You're, more and more pieces of the puzzle are falling together. And then what about, how would you start guiding, taking people to go catch these stupid?
Well, it's so funny is I think about how we're struggling today is I still haven't put the pieces of the puzzle really together.
Never do.
When
Some days
you
you don't.
Yeah, when you get it all dialed in, I guess if anything else, I just dialed in my skills, and I think that one of the things that anglers are so fortunate with today is that they're taught skills by so many levels. The educational, informational stuff that's out there today is teaching masses of people how to get better at muskie fishing, and then when you get better, you're going to catch more fish. And the guiding thing, that was kind of like that. I was going to school in University of Wisconsin-Stevens Point, right out of high school, and I actually had a football scholarship, but not there, and I didn't take it, and I decided not to play football. I wanted to go study natural resources and fish biology.
Big
And-
shocker.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
suppose. Yeah. So I'm going to school there, and on weekends, and in the summertime, but on weekends I'm coming up north, the Boulder Junction, Land O'Lakes area.
Okay.
And my dad and my grandfather had a place up there. On a place you recently fished, the Cisco Chain.
Oh, sure.
So Palmer, I fished Palmer and Tenderfoot and Cisco Chain with my dad
Nice.
growing up, and I pull into the sports shop, and the guy said, "Well, how'd you do today?" And I'm showing them pictures, and back
Polaroids. Was it
Polaroid
Oh yeah,
photos.
baby.
And the
Instant
guy-
gratification.
Yeah, and the guy, and then that sports shop owner went out with me a couple times and said, I could really keep you busy as a guide. You catch as many fish up here as these guys do.
Sure.
And I thought, guiding, really?
Take
So
someone fishing and get paid.
I got to go get a
Sounds
guide.
all right.
So I went and got a guide license. I think it was $5 or something.
Yeah.
Got a guide license, and I guided, and I guess that kind of started
was
it.
it.
Yeah, what
But I
year
was
was
in-
that?
Yeah.
Well, that was in the early '70s,
Early 70s. Wow.
and
I was born.
I was also working with my dad, my grandfather. I think I told you about the resort, and then I, naturally being in that family, I was the generation who was supposed to take over the business.
Yep.
As my dad and my grandfather are retiring. My grandfather dies. My dad takes the business over. He wants me as a partner, so I go down and start working for him. We didn't get along, even though we were like the best of friends.
Right. The business one.
Work
Yeah.
makes things
It's
different.
a challenge, yeah.
Yeah.
So one day, I just had it, and I said, I'm done. He says, what do you mean you're done? I said, I'm out of here. He says, well, where are you going? I says, and just being a smart aleck, I said, I'm going to go to northern Wisconsin and start a guide business. And he looked me in the eye and he went, you'll starve.
You'll starve.
And he's, how much you going to make? $20 a day, $25 a day. That's pretty much what I started at, $25 a day. And when I was $35 a day, I was expensive.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
wow.
Believe it or not, I was expensive.
Wow.
Yeah.
And now you put another zero on that, right? That's what guys charge a day, even for half a day. But yeah, but that was all the motivation I needed to give it a shot. And those
Especially
years,
Pop saying you're gonna starve.
Exactly. That was like fighting words.
Fuel.
And he was right.
Oh yeah, it's
He
hard.
was right. And but I stayed busy. I caught fish. I developed a good clientele, and I found side jobs. Like you and I talked about this off camera on the boat today.
Yeah.
You got to be a jack of all trades to make it in this business. And I was
Not just guiding.
No, I was caretaking a resort. I was writing, speaking, guiding, doing whatever I could to pay bills.
Yeah.
And then my wife Beth was working too.
Nice.
So when we were barely making ends meet,
Right.
I'd make like $6,000 to $8,000 a year.
Yeah.
That was it.
Right. Right.
And but slowly I'm putting a building block here and there, and I'm slowly growing this business. And
Lots of years.
yeah,
takes a
and then
long time.
eventually I guided some people that had TV shows.
Sure.
So
That's how
some
the
of those,
media
yeah.
thing kind
And you mentioned the Lindners, and I fished with Winkleman and with
Yep.
Roland Martin, and you talk about John Gillespie. I fished with John. One of the first shows I ever filmed was with John Gillespie's dad, Earl.
Oh,
Gillespie.
sure.
Earl
yeah,
goes fishing,
yep.
and I'm fishing with Roland Martin one day, and he said, "Son." Remember that? He used to say it all the time.
Oh, yeah.
The son, he says, you ought to have your own show, dude. You can do this. He didn't say dude. He
Yeah.
said,
Yeah.
I get the dude
Habit.
thing
The
from,
dude snuck in
from
there.
you guys,
Dude.
So he said, son, you ought to try doing your own show. He says,
Son.
you know enough about this that you could probably pull it off. I said, really? And so, then I found out what it was going to take to pull this off, and I had no idea what I was getting into. And
Right.
back then it was all, there wasn't internet, it wasn't YouTube, it wasn't all, it was broadcast.
There
TV.
wasn't GoPros.
There weren't GoPros. So my first camera, I was hiring cameramen out.
Oh wow.
So when I'd hire a cameraman
Yikes.
from the city, they come up,
Right.
and the meter's running.
Oh yeah.
The meter's running, and I got to film shows, and I'm like, I don't have any money to begin with. How am I going to,
Right.
build enough
Right.
content here to create a show? And then I got to buy airtime on all these networks.
Right.
That's how it started. And somehow, I picked up a couple of sponsors that that
Believed in you.
believed in me, and I made it through those first few years, and then I was guiding and running a TV show and starting a
Yep.
doing a magazine, and writing and caretaking and doing all these other things to keep still
All the above.
Yeah, because even when we started to build the tackle business, which came down the road from guiding,
Yep.
now you got employees
Right.
and you got to pay them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so you know, people look at where I'm at today and say, boy, that guy, he had it easy. I was like, no way.
There's
No,
no easy road.
no.
Trust us.
And so I understand each one of your, you know, what you guys are going through, each phase of your business, and because I've been there, and I understand what it takes to not only catch fish but to put them on film, and then do it for a living. It's
Have
a
everything
challenge.
go right. Yeah.
It's a challenge. It's a challenge.
As
So-
you can see, it's been a really big challenge as of late. Other than your nice big one the other day.
Right. Fishing can be hard.
You know, I was going to say to you, one of the things with the guiding is once you're out, when you're out on the water that many hours, like you were when you were guiding full time,
Yeah.
you see things. I don't even see those kind of things. I mean, I got all the instincts now from that, but you see things as you're out here every day because you're forced to be out here, even when you don't want to be out here.
Yeah.
Right.
That you click at a different level, and you know that's one of the things when I started to get better at figure eights and I got better at spotting little weather changes and
Oh,
got
yeah.
better at
Wind.
at all these things, you know, yeah, all the little subtle weather and wind things, and that led me into the moon thing. You know, I saw that not only did the sun have an influence and the clouds have an influence and wind angles and all this stuff, but this, you know, what we're fishing all day and all of a sudden, you know, like why was there one strike
right.
at this one particular time of day and nothing else changed? And then, you know,
The moon.
the moon. Started to figure out it was the moon. And one of the things that really tipped me off was I started doing a lot of evening guiding, which, by the way, you didn't do back in those days. You were supposed to fish
Oh, yeah.
9 to 5.
Sure.
You had American Plan Resorts.
Yeah.
You got your folks back to dinner at a certain time,
Yep.
and they always had cocktails afterwards and then go
Sure.
fishing. But I would go, you know, I could take you out fishing for a couple hours, and in those couple hours, we'll have a
good.
better chance
Yeah.
of scoring on a muskie than we did all day.
Right.
And I got a few customers to dial into that, and so I'm back there working my boat, sipping on my coffee, and all of a sudden, you know, the fishing's not going well, and all of a sudden, you know, the sun sets, and all of a sudden, you know, there's a muskie frenzy for 2 or 3 fish, and we catch fish, and all of a sudden the moon comes up, and we fish another hour or 2, and there's nothing. And I started to put that together, like,
The moonrise. That was
Wait a second.
obviously a way to figure it out because you see
yes,
it.
I saw it.
Yeah.
And so I started watching, does moonset work? Does moonrise and moonset work even when there's not a full moon or a
Right.
new moon? And I started watching it, and that's, you know, that's,
How that
and then, you know, of
started,
course,
huh?
there already was moon, you know, John Alden's moon tables, and
Oh,
everything.
yeah.
But
Yeah,
they
I remember
mostly
that.
talked about the major and the minor, the moon overhead and the moon underfoot, which is also a peak. But moonrise and moonset was something I really saw
Keyed in on.
Yeah.
huge results on. So, you know, that was one of those things that we did.
Almost every 55-inch class fish we've had in the boat has happened within 20 minutes of a riser set. I mean, that's
Done.
almost every one of them, like 80% of them.
Well, you know, and folks look at that, you know, when they're watching this and they go, oh, you know, is it a coincidence or come on, it can't be. Folks,
No.
when you think about it, these are creatures of nature. You know, it's like whether you're deer hunting or you're fishing, everything is triggered. Their whole lives are triggered. Look at what does the moon do to the tidal influences on
Right.
the oceans.
Right,
It's
yeah.
all that matters to the
Something, yeah.
fish.
That's all that matters to fish is
environment.
sunrise, sunset, moonrise, moonset, and weather conditions. That's how they live.
Right.
Yeah.
All dependent.
Right?
Huh. Well, we obviously talked about the guiding thing, but Joe, what are some stories? You fished the heydays of northern Wisconsin. What was
With
it
a
like
lot of
back
people.
then?
Well, you know, one of the cool things about people ask me all the time, well, is it better now than it was back then, or vice versa? And honestly, when it comes to northern Wisconsin, it was honestly better back then.
Yeah. Bigger fish or?
Bigger fish and less traffic, or you know what we call today dumb fish.
Yeah. Yeah.
Much hotter, shallow water fish, and if you even look back at the old classic muskie marathon, even in Vilas County,
yeah.
you know, there'd be, you know, it would be loaded. There would be lots of 50 inchers.
Right. Right.
And you know, my clients, for example, would probably be in the 40 to 50, sometimes 60% centile of that top 10 of muskie marathon every year. So you know, they'd be all 50s
Right.
plus.
Wow.
And
So the Muskie Marathon, for those that don't know,
that was a big thing.
That was the year-long contest
Yes, of big fish.
of big fish.
Big fish. And then also it was kind of a statewide thing too. And by the way, back then it was done by weight.
No.
You know, so
gotcha.
so you know,
really
you're right
yeah.
in that transition
Hang
of
'em.
catch and release. So it was, you know, that's an interesting time in our history too. And we talked about that in the boat today.
Yeah.
You know, there was a time when they shot them.
Right.
There was a time when we kept all of them. Then there was a time when we released a percentage of them. And now we release all of them.
Yep.
And, you know, and replica mounting is replica taxidermy is a big
Oh,
thing.
yeah.
But, you know, I guess one of the big things is there were far less people that knew what they were doing.
Less pressure.
Way
Yep.
less pressure.
Yep.
And there were more top-end big fish.
Right.
And that were not, they were
Never
aggressive
touched.
because they were
Right.
never touched.
Right.
They were dumb.
Yes, and to our disadvantage, though, fellas, is we didn't have the tackle.
Sure.
Tackle.
Yeah.
Or, you know, tools, trolling motors,
Right,
sonar,
yeah.
right.
no side imaging or anything like that.
You know, it's funny. As I was telling the guys this morning, there was a place up in Boulder Junction, north of Boulder Junction, Dairyman's Country Club. I guided several of my best customers were from there, but I never actually fished out of Dairyman's because he wouldn't allow me to use my trolling motor or my sonar unit.
this private
Cheating.
lake.
That was cheating because he was using a sonar unit and a trolling motor.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Think about that.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
that's
You know,
pretty
now with
wild.
side imaging and you know, auto stow and deploy and
Right.
GPS and all this stuff. But you know,
Nuts.
there was a time when I first got into guiding. I know it's hard for people to realize, but that's how old I am. When I first got into guiding,
Oh yeah.
Road.
it was you were
Row
rowing,
your boat.
and if you had a sonar unit, you didn't have a trolling motor. If you had a sonar unit on your boat, that was an extra.
Yep.
And you had to carry an extra big. There were 6-volt
6
batteries.
volt battery.
Yeah.
And it went like this all day long, so you'd have a headache.
Yep.
So
Oh, yeah.
At the end of the
Flasher.
day, flashers.
Yeah.
Old flashers.
Yep.
And
Green box.
green box. That was
That's
what
crazy.
that was standard stuff. And when you found a reef, you know, you lined it up with you rifle sighted everything.
Right.
You wrote it down in your notes and everything, and that's how it started. So that's where I started.
Line up the trees.
So I
yeah.
got to see
no
all
GPS.
of that.
Right. Yeah. No, that's crazy.
Yeah, and nobody fished muskies at night, and nobody did all this other stuff. No.
Right.
You know, they didn't even stand up in muskie fish.
Exactly.
And the tackle, you know, we had nylon and Dacron lines. So,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
27.
No super braid.
No, the braided lines you guys have today. Leaders, guys would show up with these dime store leaders that would fall apart.
Yeah. Yeah.
You hook a big fish and boom, you
Done.
lose them in the leader with the leader
Berkeley
apart.
steel on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
junk.
Yeah.
Just junk, you know, and you were constantly, as a guide, you were constantly retying lines because the line was fraying.
Yeah.
You
Right.
know,
It was
so
weak.
Everything about today's tackle is so superior.
Yeah.
And then of course then you have shows like you guys that are teaching these people how to fish at such a higher
yeah,
level. So
yeah.
many more anglers know how to do it.
I'm a little more comfortable. So, what is the biggest northern Wisconsin fish in the boat?
My biggest northern Wisconsin fish was out of Big Lake, west of Boulder Junction. It was 54 1/4.
54 1/4 northern Wisconsin.
Yeah, 54 1/4,
That's so
and
crazy to think
it's
about
funny
that.
because of all the great, you know, all the lures that I've made and all the great lures that are out there even before my products were even out there. I caught it on a jig.
Jig.
Yeah, caught it on a jig.
Bottom
jig and
fishing.
a reaper. Yeah,
Jig and a
you know,
reaper.
in a cold front in late October, and you know how many fish we saw that day?
One.
One that 50.
Oh darn.
Yeah, it's funny because that was the biggest fish, and it was a late October,
Oh, wow.
big beastie,
Oh, yeah.
54-inch northern Wisconsin, true 40
I can
pounder.
only imagine what that looks like.
Well, you know what's also special about it? I released it,
Right, right.
so we were at a point already where we were releasing them.
Sure.
And prior to that, my biggest fish was a fish I told you guys about earlier, old Scarface.
Scarface,
Yeah.
yep.
And that was a fish, you know, that was everybody knew about that fish, but
Oh,
they
yeah.
couldn't catch it. It had a big white scar on its top of his head. So when
Sure.
you come in, you could see a white
him.
thing going, what is that following my baby? It's like a white. You almost look like a loon following. You
Sure.
look and go, whoa. You know?
It's a giant. Yeah.
First time I saw Scarface, by the way, it was following a stringer of walleyes. We didn't have live bulls back then.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
The
yeah.
walleyes over the side of the boat.
So you had your stringer walleyes on the side of the boat, and I'd be drifting. I was drifting over
Yep.
this flat, and my customer just looked over the side, and went, "Oh my gosh!" Probably had a few more expletives beyond
Yeah,
that, but
yeah.
the walleyes, you know, on the stringer, the tails were paint like a paintbrush painting on Scarface's,
nose.
and Scarface was going.
Thinking about it.
You know how they do that with the
Right.
going like that, and I'm going, "Oh
a
my
big
gosh!"
one.
I'm looking at this fish, going, "Man, I got to come back and try to catch this fish."
Right.
But the guys I was fishing with weren't musky guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they just thought, oh, what, we couldn't even, you know, we couldn't even get that thing in the boat. What were we
Right.
going to do with that?
Right.
Yeah. So a few days later, I ended up catching that fish.
Wow. That's
Crazy
cool. And what did you
stories.
catch it on?
A chartreuse bucktail
All right.
that I hand tied. It was one of the first original pattern booker tails. Was not called a booker tail back then, and I made the bait. And get this, I bought that lure after I caught that fish, and I tied a few more of them. I bought that to a company that was tying bucktails
Yeah.
that already existed. It was a Marathon company. I said, you ought to make this. And the guy said,
No.
nobody will buy those.
That bright thing.
Yeah, nobody will buy those.
That was, by the way, the first booker tail I ever got was a chartreuse booker tail.
That's what I caught Scarface on.
All right.
That's what I caught Scarface
That's
on.
funny.
And here's another thing. We didn't even have landing nets to land these fish back then. Can you
Wow.
believe that, Robbie?
Couldn't
No,
even
we had to
imagine.
gaff them.
Gaff them.
Yeah.
We had to gap them, and more of those big fish were lost because you tried to net them, and it's
Right.
like they tore up everything, blow
Oh,
right
yeah.
through the net, and they
Right.
tore up everything. So yeah,
Wow.
I gaffed Scarface.
Yeah. Got another
I
scar.
hand landed
Yeah.
that big hog on the jig,
Gotcha.
and with a glove that was a little touchy.
Right.
Yeah.
And especially dangerous with treble hooks, and I got hooked several times doing that.
Yeah, I bet.
And eventually,
Connected the fish.
in fact, Bruce Beckman, the old Beckman net.
Oh,
company,
yeah,
I
heck
came
yeah.
to Bruce one day and I said, Bruce, you got to build a bigger net. How much bigger? Twice the size, twice
yeah.
the depth. And now, you guys, we're all spoiled.
it's
We got
standard, yeah.
there's
Right.
everybody's got them. When I first asked for that, I got those looks like,
Oh, yeah.
really?
We need a live well over the side of the boat, too.
Yeah. Yeah.
When it came to release, obviously.
Now we have that. We have a live well in our landing nets.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Correct.
Crazy.
Yeah, I know it's hard for some folks to fathom that we just didn't have all that stuff,
Right.
but that's how it
Didn't it?
started, and here I am at 65 years old, still enjoying it, and
Yeah.
and trying to be a viable part of this industry, and
crazy.
I started Muskie Hunter magazine all those years ago, and now
Yeah.
my new thing is this app.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
and
That's
so,
something
yeah,
we can talk about.
Yeah,
a
we
little
haven't
bit.
talked
Yeah.
about that really
Yeah.
yet.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So, yeah, why don't you tell us about it? You've got a muskie fishing app. It is
Yes.
called
Muskie 360, and it's free. That's the big thing too.
free
There's no
Muskie
cost.
app.
So every single muskie angler in the world can download this on their phone. There's no passwords and all those others. Just find Muskie 360, boom, download it. And the reason you want this is everything you've been looking for that you have to search for. What's the moon phase? It's on there.
Right. Right.
It's on there. The moonrise and the moon. So we talked about moon. When does the moon rise? When does the moon set? When is moon overhead? When is moon underfoot?
It's all in
It's all
one
on that
spot,
app.
yeah.
We're fall fishing today. There's a plethora of articles on there. Not only seasonal, but there is just a library of stuff and videos from the best players in the business. Teaching people how to catch muskies, and then even stuff like how deep. Guys are writing me all the time. How deep does a depth raider run?
Sure.
Yeah.
It's on the app.
Gotcha.
It's on the app. So lure running charts and trolling charts and all
Which
this.
is-
It's an
yeah.
informational content mecca.
Right.
That's right at your fingertips, 24/7, 365.
Which you'll always get, new stuff added to it
All the
as
time.
well, which
It'll
is
be
pretty crazy.
it'll be updated daily, weekly,
Mm-hmm.
and it's kind of one of my parting shots to the industry
Mm-hmm.
as I get older here is we needed this app. We needed it.
Yeah.
Our industry. I mean, we needed Muskie 360. We needed an app to answer a lot of questions. And you know what, Lee, you're at a sports show. You and Robbie are at a sports show, and you get a pile of people come into you at the booth, and they're all different levels of muskie angling. And I ran into this at a lodge. That's what gave me the idea. I did not come up with the idea. A friend of mine that was with me said, guy says, I've never muskie fished before. How do you do a figure eight? What do you mean moon? What?
Yeah.
And then I go to the next table. I'm having coffee. And I go to the next table. And the guy says, "Hey, what time's the moon rise today?" And they're trying to find it.
Right.
And then the next guy's asking a different question. And a friend that was on a trip with me looked at me and went, and he had a southern drawl. He said, "You
Sure.
need an app."
Yeah. you need an app.
Hey, Joe, you need an app. And I says, I have no idea where to start. He says, I can do it for you.
Yeah.
And so some friends of mine from Nashville put this thing together, and
Cool.
that's Muskie 360. It's kind of like, 30 years ago I did Muskie Hunter magazine.
Right.
Now it's Muskie
Same
360,
deal.
which is technologically that's what we needed at this point.
Yeah, absolutely.
Who knows
So
what
that'll
it'll be
cool.
tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's a brand new app that's just about, it's
It's-
ready to debut.
Actually,
Right
probably
now.
by the time your folks watch it, it's out there.
Cool.
Yeah, it's out there.
We'll leave the link in the description.
We appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because we want everybody, and again, there's no hidden agenda with this, with Muskie 360. It's something I want to do for the industry.
Yeah.
So that just like when I first started the magazine, is to connect the dots with anglers from all over the North America that want to learn how to muskie fish and talk to each other.
Right.
And now we have the internet to do that, but Muskie 360 gives everybody, you're right here in the boat, and you want to
Yeah.
know. Yeah, I mean, I've got a version of it right here. You're in the boat, and you want to find out, well, what's the moon phase? Well, up comes the moon. Up comes
Right
the
there.
app,
Yeah.
and you just touch. Let me see. There's moon, and
boom.
up comes the moon, and you touch it right here, and okay.
See what the
like
moon is
that.
for what day.
Yeah, there's our moon information.
Yep.
And I want to know articles, fall tactics for
Yeah,
monster muskies.
From other people.
I want to get videos. Here's all the here's just loaded with videos from
Yep,
different
all musky stuff.
all your favorite guys, including you guys. We hope you're a big part of this. We want guys to go, wow. There's Lee and Robbie on there. You're talking about catching fish on your. And here's the other thing: teaching people how to fish your products.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Your products, and this is a great place for all of these people that are associated with us, as well as people are trying to access the app, is to learn how the heck do I fish that.
Right, how to get started.
It's right here.
That's
it's
awesome.
right here.
So basically, it'll be a muskie hub of sorts where you can
info.
find all the data, boom, quick. Like you said, the moon, articles on how to
Videos,
video content, everything. Just-
charts, running, lure running depth charts, color patterns for
Sure,
different waters.
Yeah.
And then how are we going to make this thing work? The monetization will be through advertising. So you're going to have some lodges and people like that are in the
Sure.
muskie industry
Right.
that want to be involved, and that's how it'll be paid for.
Right.
But like I said, my big thing with doing Muskie 360 is at the tail end of my career. Before I'm in a walker.
Yeah.
I wanted to do
We'll
this.
get you out here, man.
I'm glad you guys spent some time with me here today, and I
gosh.
thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yep.
And as you know, I hang out with Chaz and Tyler, and
Yep.
and I love the connecting the generations, and I love the technology. I
Right.
mean, I've always been
Keeps
into
you-
the technology, and I'm always learning from you guys. You guys are awesome, and at the same time, you tapping into Lee and you tapping into these older guys like me.
Yep.
You see the experience and the wisdom that you can only get from being there.
Right.
It's
No, it's
yeah.
very cool.
yeah. So we both have
Absolutely.
something to offer each other.
Awesome.
Yeah, got all the generations
Yep.
here. Boom.
Pretty
22, 47, 65, got it all.
You got it.
But cool. Well, that sounds exciting. So I told you the first booker tail I had was the chartreuse and chartreuse double char. And actually, I did not buy that bait. I was wading the Wisconsin River and I saw it snagged on a rock and I picked it up.
Boy, is that an omen?
So yeah, and ended up catching fish on it. So at any rate, that
That's
just
a cool story.
but just going back, like how did you get the lure company started? I mean, what?
Well, I kind of, it kind of started with the Scarface fish, and modifying to, all the lures that were out there. You got to think, prior to the booker tail, most of the bucktail lures that were out there were tied. The bucktail was tied to the treble.
Oh yes,
Right.
yeah.
Gotcha.
So
yeah, no, I'm
mine was
okay.
one of the very first to have an independent treble hook, so that you could change the hook.
Hook, right.
So when you damaged the hook, you didn't ruin the lure.
Right.
Was it tied on the choke cable?
It was tied on the choke cable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
So we started doing that, and the fluted blade thing. I had some of my old grandpa's old lures, and they had the Skinner spoon.
I have a few of those blades.
Okay, then it had the blade and the clevis were kind of one piece, so it didn't work that well.
Yeah.
But that concept looked really cool, and so that's kind of how we got that blade design. But then I caught some fish on this bait, and it was not called a booker tail.
Yeah.
And I was fishing with one of my guide clients from Fond du Lac, is Dr. Guy Jensen, and we had caught a few fish on these baits, and I made them all kinds of different ways. Back then, making with French blades and
Sure.
Colorado blades
Yeah.
and willow blades and fluted blades, just playing around with them, and big and small. And I caught a fish on one of those things. I said, "Doc, you really should be throwing." He says, "Well, give me one of those darn booker tails."
And that's where it was- that's where it came.
That's where it came from. So Doc
Wow.
Jensen came up with the name booker tail. And
That's awesome.
so Doc catches a fish that day. We put the, back then we,
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
so he wanted.
Thumped him.
Yeah, we clunked him. He put the fish in the freezer. Had a display freezer in town. And you got to remember the whole thing about keeping fish back then, folks. That was the way you did it.
That's
Right.
just
Part
what you
of it.
did.
But your day was over by the way then too. You didn't catch 1 or 2 or 3. You caught 1.
You got one.
We got one.
Keeper.
Yeah, yeah. So we got
got
one
one.
small. We got one undersized fish on a bucktail that Joe Booker made that he nicknamed the Booker tail, and then he started throwing that bait. He catches a fish on it. It's like in the high 30s. We clunk it. He puts it in the freezer.
Yep.
And the sport shop owner, who's also the guy that got me into guiding, by the way,
Sure.
Okay.
says, "So what'd you catch it on?" I said, "Oh, Doc says, caught it on a Booker tail." Like that.
That's
kind of
priceless.
kind of a
Wow.
wisecrack. I caught it on a Booker tail. He says, "Well, we can't have that." I said,
What?
And
Who
Doc-
said that?
But
This was
Jim
the
Ashley, the sports shop owner,
guy.
goes,
Yeah.
he says, and Doc goes, "Why can't we?" He says, "Because I don't have any in the store." He says, "You go home and start making some."
Make it up. Right. Yeah.
So,
Right.
so Beth and I, $200 on a credit card. That was our credit card
Oh boy.
limit.
Sure.
Wow.
So we go buying a bunch of components. I'm thinking it was from Netcraft or something
Yeah.
like that. I don't know if they're still around, but
Yeah.
Netcraft, and we bought some components and bought a few bucktails and
Started
tied them on the
going.
kitchen table.
Yep.
Yep.
Bought them down by the sports shop there, and then the sports shops around are going, "Hey, wait a minute, what about
need
us?"
some
What do you got?
Yeah, so we ended up making a display of them and walking around all the local sports shops, driving around all the local sports shops. They're showing them our Booker tail display,
Wow.
and then that also, by the way, that led to leaders. I also was the first one making these real premium leaders.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And $1.50 by that's what they were.
Yeah.
It was like,
Are you kidding?
Kidding me?
it's a nick. We don't pay more than 25 cents. 25
Yeah.
cents is what you pay for a wire leader.
Right.
So I was buying premium components and making these premium wire leaders, and so we started packaging them. And the guy said, I remember that guy says, "Well, you can put a few in the stores, but nobody will
They'll
buy
never sell.
Yeah.
yeah." And the guides started using them and recommending them.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and so that kind of, very few people know that we actually started the premium leader business. So now there's so many guys into it, but we
Yeah.
started the premium leader business
Huh,
and the
cool.
Booker tail, and that's kind of where it got started. That's
Right.
kind of where it got started.
Yeah.
But Doc Jensen came up with the name Booker.
Booker
Booker
tail.
tail. That
Yeah,
is awesome
you
story.
heard it here first.
That's true.
That's cool. Well, obviously there's the Booker tail, but there's some other baits along the line. How did you even get started with that?
Well,
Depth raiders, shallow raiders, all that. Top raider.
Rob, believe it or not, there was a time when the entire musky lure industry was natural bucktail
Yep.
and
Hair.
wood.
And wood.
And wood.
Yeah.
And if you didn't make your lures out of wood or natural bucktail,
No.
no good. And I caught a lot of fish on those lures. But
Oh, yeah.
one of the frustrating parts about pikey minnows and Bagley crankbaits and all those great lures is that as soon as you start catching fish on them, they get waterlogged and they get chewed up.
Yep.
And so I started messing around with saltwater. I wasn't the first guy to do this, but I started messing around with saltwater plastic lures.
Sure.
Yep.
Cisco Kid and some of the Miro lures and some of those stuff.
Miro lure.
Yeah, Miro lures, Cisco Kids and stuff like that. And I'm like, if I could catch fish on these baits, you had to modify them.
Yeah.
Get those big hooks off them and, get them on split rings and stuff, and started catching fish on them.
Yep.
And it's like,
Interesting.
yeah, this is where we should go here. And I was guiding a plastics manufacturer one day, and he said, he said, that jointed bait you're using there, we can make that out of plastic. I said, really? I said, yeah.
Well,
So,
I'm listening.
Yeah. And you could have the diving lip, integrally molded into that lure.
Sure.
Right.
And really, I said, how much would that cost to get into it?
Yeah.
When I heard the money, the dollar
Oh,
figure,
yeah.
I went, "Good boy."
Maybe not.
Yeah.
So
This is
long and the
big.
short of it is we decided to invest some money in a lure, and I didn't have a name for that either, by the
Yeah,
way. My son
sure.
came up with it. He was watching Star Wars
Okay.
movies and Darth Vader. He
Yeah.
wanted to call that jointed lure the Darth Vader. I
Yeah,
said,
yeah.
"You can't do that, Joe."
Yeah,
Right,
okay.
No,
It's like-
George Lucas and the gang is not going to be happy.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you do that. He said, "Well, it dives. Yes, depth." He
Yep.
says, "How about depth raider?"
Raider. I'm like,
Perfect.
perfect.
And so the-
We're getting the full skinny here. This is
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah. This is Joe Jr. comes up with the name Depth Raider, and so then the raider thing became like a family of lures: shallow raider, depth raider, top raider, gliding raider, and that became a family of lures. And
Right.
and and every time we'd make a little money on the lure company, we'd invest it back into something else.
Yep.
And
Keep expanding and whatever.
yeah, and we grew from the $200 credit card limit, with tying
Yeah,
the bucktails
right.
to
An
eventually
actual,
having a
wow.
plant and people making lures and spray
Wow.
painting and lead molding and metal stamping.
Yep,
and,
everything.
and- oh my gosh, yeah. And
That's crazy.
and that eventually it grew into the lure company. And Beth, my wife Beth and I ran that company for over 24, 25 years before we gave up the day-to-day operations of it.
Yeah.
But it's still, I still own the names Depth Raider, Booker Tail. I
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
own all the tooling, and I have somebody actually run it for me now. But that's how it started.
Right.
And now, of course,
Crazy.
today's world, everybody accepts baits that last.
Right. Yeah.
Hard plastic lures and paint jobs that last a long time. And
Yep.
no, that's an accepted thing. But
Right.
there was a time when your lure
You
was
wanna
made
do
out of
that,
wood.
Yeah.
No go, dude.
Right.
No
Junk.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it just was not
Right.
acceptable.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Wood and lures tradition
Right.
and musky fishing.
Right.
It's kind of like
Yeah.
rowing.
Rowing, yeah.
Yeah, no
throwing
sonar.
water.
And
And I
everything
still
just
go by
evolves.
that. All my stuff, I just make smaller numbers of,
Right.
higher end whatever stuff, but all wood stuff.
Well,
but-
that's in that neat that there's kind of like that blend of everything now. But
Right.
now you
Oh,
guys
yeah.
have the epoxies
yeah.
and the finishes on them that make them last a lot longer.
Yeah.
Right.
You make them last a lot longer.
Plus, it makes them really shiny.
Yes.
People like really shiny.
And I think that's why my whole thing is I like connecting all of us in the industry. We all have something to offer.
Right.
And
We're all doing the same thing.
we're all doing the same thing. We're all trying to make a living in this business
Yep.
and enjoy it.
Yep.
and bring people young and old into
Yeah.
this sport, and they can appreciate the frustrations we deal with in trying to catch these fish,
Yeah.
and what it takes in skills and expertise to catch these fish. And at the same time, once you start to learn the skills, then when fishing isn't that good, you'll catch one.
Right. Yeah.
But when fishing gets, and we got one today.
Yeah. We
Yeah,
technically
we got
did.
one.
We got
Yeah,
one
we
third
got
of one.
1/3. Yeah.
We're not done yet.
No, but on those good days, once you learn how to do this stuff, you catch multiple fish, and that's what makes the sport more fun.
Absolutely.
Well, obviously, you've been a giant influence within the industry to
Insane.
so many people.
Insane.
I mean, for us to get this chance to do this, this
Yeah.
Legend series
Yeah.
is really a pleasure and an honor for us to get to do this. And I mean, you've helped us understand muskies.
Well,
So we appreciate everything
Yeah,
you put into the
absolutely.
pleasure's
industry.
all mine. fellas.
Yeah. No, I get
it
it.
really is. Thank you, Lee,
No.
and thank you, Robbie.
No.
It's and best of luck to you guys with your show. And you're doing a fabulous job.
Thank you much.
You're hitting that out of the park with this thing, and I know what it takes to be successful,
Mm-hmm.
and I know how hard you guys are working at it, and every day you get up and do it. But hey,
Yeah.
like I said when we were driving through
Absolutely.
that channel, we're still fishing.
Still fishing.
Oh, yeah.
We have nothing to
What-
complain about whether we're
absolutely.
catching a fish or not. You're still fishing.
Yep.
It's still
absolutely.
good. It's all
No. No.
all.
Seriously. Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, I guess there you have it. There's the, just kind of a little taste of
Joe Booker.
what happened.
Yeah.
How did this all
How
happen?
did this all happen?
But I guess
We got some fish to catch.
the
still.
weather, I don't know if you noticed, everything's kind of blowing around
Yeah,
a little more
yeah.
and the boat's shifting.
Yeah.
Yep.
We got a little weather switch.
We do.
Let's get some baits
Yeah,
in
in
the
fact,
water.
we're supposed to have a major weather system come in tonight, so we've been expecting this to
Yeah.
crack. Maybe now it will.
Yeah, snow's coming Saturday.
do it.
Check
Yeah.
Muskie 360.
Yeah, get on-
here
get on
real
the
quick.
app
Gonna
here.
check the
Let's
app
see,
here.
let's see here. What does it
The
say
new toy.
for a moon? For any, let me see. We have a 5:30 p.m.
Moonrise, 5:30 p.m.
Wow.
moonrise.
It's 4:30.
No, wait, this is an hour off, isn't it? The time on your GPS?
Right, we got 1 hour. No, yeah, we're good. We're good. We're
Okay.
good. It's 5:30. Yeah, we got an hour. We're going right into a moon peak.
Let's do it. Let's get it
let's
done.
get to work.
Come on.
Joe, I'm going in your box. You gonna kill me? Here we go. Something bright and ugly. Little parrot kind of color. All right, look out. Folks, we're gonna make some big moves. I just stole a bait out of Joe's Plano here.
That makes for a good story.
Here we go. What do you think? You said you painted that one?
Yep.
All right, I'll go with it. I'll give her a whirl.
Well, folks, here we are.
Another day in the 715. Even Joe Booker couldn't help us. He did catch one though, so
Yeah.
you know, it's us. It's not him.
It's definitely us.
I don't know.
Absolutely.
You know, it just shows you we're human,
Yep.
and you know,
Not every
And
day.
they're not.
yeah, isn't it funny that all the years we've been doing this, Lee? Think about this, and you know, we're telling Robbie's this guy walks around with a horseshoe, but even the horseshoe guy,
Even the horseshoe got
he didn't
denied.
get one today. But you know what? It's always these fish will always humble you.
Oh yeah.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter, and about the time you think you really got it figured out, then you go into you get out
Curveball.
there and just get
Yeah.
you just get slapped, and it takes you back down to size, and you realize that, like anything we do in the outdoors, you're dealing with living creatures.
Right.
Yeah.
You know,
You don't control them.
when you climb in a tree stand, to hunt you go out. You can go out there 100
Right.
outings,
Right.
but you only need it to go right once.
Once, and then you're good.
And then you're good,
Yeah.
you know. And you think back even this year, the nice fish that you've caught this year,
Yep.
that makes up for those days
Right.
when you.
Oh, yeah.
When it's like
Yeah.
these days.
But
doesn't
that's
matter.
why it keeps you throwing,
Absolutely.
because it could be the next cast, and unfortunately, you know, it was
all
just
good.
it was
Hey,
a slugger.
it
We'll,
doesn't
we'll
matter.
do it again. I'm sure we'll do it again.
You know, we kind of had those east wind blues today.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
A little southeast.
yeah.
Hard
Yeah,
ball.
my lesson for the day is as soon as you think you figured it out,
You have no idea.
you have no idea. So don't even try. Just keep going.
Yep.
Eventually
Absolutely.
it'll be the right day. But yeah, we hope you guys really enjoyed this, at least half as much as we enjoyed it.
Yeah.
We're looking forward to doing some more legend shoots. And Joe officially gave us the invite to do this again, so hopefully we can
Well, you got to
get
give me
a
another
chance.
chance.
Hell
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we'll pound again with you.
No, you got to give us another chance.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll tell you. Hey, I'll tell you what, folks. You know, for those of you who are big fans of mine that are watching this year too, it's like these two guys are pounders, and they're true, you know, believers
Yeah.
in the sport, and they love the fish, and they're both professional guides as well as just love the sport. And
Thank you, sir.
but I really, I am humbly thankful that you guys gave me the chance to fish.
Heck
with you
yeah.
today.
No,
Thank you.
Obviously, we'll leave the links below. Make sure you're going to check out the Muskie 360 app.
Yeah.
And
And also Joe Booker's channel. I mean, we shouldn't have to say that,
Yeah,
but if
well,
you're new,
sorry.
you know.
kind of just
Right.
was thinking about the app
Right.
so much today.
But you know, they can find it on the app.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's the beauty is all of the stuff that's going on here. You can find Lee, you can find me, you can find a lot of these, a handful of these other guys that you really like. You can see articles by them, videos by them,
Yep.
tips by them, and you get moon faces and all this other stuff. And
Yeah.
it's just a good deal.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for watching. Appreciate it. Make sure you go to Joe's channel, click the subscribe button. Make sure if you haven't clicked our subscribe button, please do
Please
so
do
now.
that.
We would appreciate it. Until the next Legends video, we'll see you on the next one.